What happens when cybersecurity meets generative AI at global scale? Today on Lead with AI, I'm joined by Howie Xu, Chief AI and Innovation Officer at Gen Digital, the Fortune 500 company behind household names that I know you've heard of, like Norton, LifeLock, and more. Howie isn't just an AI leader. He's helped build the modern internet as we know it. From founding VMware's networking stack to scaling AI at Zscaler and Palo Alto's networks to co-founding TrustPath, he spent his career turning cutting-edge innovation into market-moving impact. At Gen Digital, he's tackling one of the biggest challenges in tech today: how to build personal AI systems people can trust in a world increasingly run by algorithms we don't control. This is an episode about digital freedom, cybersecurity at scale, and why AI innovation is nothing without integrity. And what's even greater is that yesterday they launched Norton Neo, and we're one of the first platforms where it is being introduced and announced. Let's dive in. Welcome to Lead with AI. I'm Dr. Tamara Nall. In each episode, we will take you behind the scenes with visionary leaders shaping the future of AI across public and private sectors. Join us as we explore groundbreaking projects and innovations that are transforming industries and making a real impact on people's lives. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. How are you? It is Dr. T, your host on Lead with AI, and I'm excited to have a great conversation with Howie Xu, who is the Chief AI and Innovation Officer at Gen Digital. Hi, Howie. How are you?
Good. Hi, Tamara, Dr. T.
Yes, thank you so much. So we all know about the products that Gen Digital has. So we're really excited about all of the great advancements that we're going to talk about today. And most of our guests, if not all of them, use your product. So this is so exciting. I feel very honored to be talking to you today.
Yes, many people may not know the name of Gen Digital, our company name, but the product, right? You are talking about Norton, LifeLock, Moneyline. It's just everywhere.
Yes, absolutely. So let's start with who you are. Tell us a little bit about who you are at your core and why you're so excited about all the innovation that you have at Gen Digital and all of the breakthroughs that the company is building.
Yeah, I'm a computer technologist by training. I've done a lot of the computer technology, cloud, cybersecurity in my early career. In the last 10 years, I transitioned my career into AI. At least back then, I thought, this is a pretty hot field. These days, people say, hey, you came to this field so early. That's very interesting for me to hear that feedback. But anyhow, I started a company in AI cybersecurity, which was acquired by a public company called the Zscaler. I was there, and then I was the Senior VP of AI at Palo Alto Networks right before this job. A year ago, I joined Gen Digital, and the company that does so many consumer stuff.
That's amazing. And when consumers first experience, we like you said, we know about LifeLock. I have it. We know about Norton. I have it. But what's the jaw-dropping moment when people first experience your product that haven't used it before and they realize wow, this really changes everything for my life?
Well, just to give people the peace of mind, right? It's not about TikTok, right? Give you immediate satisfaction of something. This is really a product give you the peace of mind to make sure your identity, your computer, your device is protected. You are in good hands. Really, that is the nature of the product. Now, that being said, we just launched the brand new products, right? In browser. That I think it started, as a company, we started laying out or giving people the products that people would immediately see, wow, that's interesting.
Right. So tell us a little bit. So it's Norton Neo. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, we actually just launched it this week, yesterday, 24 hours ago. The notion is very simple, right? Browser has been there for the last 30 years. Netscape invented 30 years ago. Believe it or not, where I sit, my office, my building is where Netscape IPO'd 30 years ago.
Oh, wow.
This is the very place, so this is a very special place. But browser didn't change that much, right? You browse the internet, sure, maybe it's sped up, things like that. But fundamentally, the browser you saw 30 years ago versus the browser you saw now is not much different. What we are trying to do is, look, in the AI era, everything will be disrupted, right? One of the things that will be disrupted is this 30-year-old browser, right? What is the key difference? I'll just say one thing, because I'm pretty sure the audience wanted to know more than, Norton Neo. The one thing is the browser of the past or the current browser you're using, you are in the driver's seat. You say, I go to this website, this news website, that's it, right? We are talking about a browser actually understands you, learns you, and then be ahead of you. My CEO, Vincent, one day said, hey, I not only need a browser that's fast, but I also need a browser that's actually ahead of me, right? I feel like before I go somewhere, boom, it's already there, or give you the shortcut, give you the reminder. When I forget something, right, it's going to remind you. When it's you read something, it will tell you, hey, maybe this is something you wanted to know. It's almost like you have the world's expert or a Superman sitting next to you when you read things, when you do things, right? Think about it. What's the next time? What's the last time you have a Superman? Literally a Superman sitting next to you when you actually browse. That's the kind of we wanted people to be able to reimagine the browsing experience. That's what Norton Neo is about.
Wow. So literally I just go and open up my laptop or my tablet and it already can predict what it thinks I want to look at.
Yeah. Of course, it's a journey, right? It's not like the Norton Neo does anything I just said today. Right. But that is really, I believe, for the next 10 years, what people deserve for the browser. They don't deserve a browser just to, be, going a website fast, right? Look, you have way more information, more information than you are able to process today, right? Whether news or your personal information or this and that. You really need a Superman or personal assistant or, using the popular word these days, the agent to help you. You really need that, right? So we believe that a browser is almost a necessary component, at least on the desktop. And the browser should be just 1,000 times smarter than the browser we have known in the last 30 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, we're all curious because, like you said, there's so much changing. And how do y'all stay on top of all of the changing security vulnerabilities, et cetera, to make us safe? So if I were to open up the hood of your products, of the company, what is the brain doing and how does it all work?
That's a very interesting. So think about Norton Neo, right? Neo is exactly what I just mentioned to you in terms of the vision. But the reason we kind of have Norton here is actually we have a world-class cybersecurity intelligence. Right? When it comes to, anti-phishing, anti-scam, though this is a good website or not, we already have a world-class research lab that give us the latest, up-to-date, the URL you cannot visit, that sort of thing. So we actually marry this AI technology with our world-class, intelligence. So, Norton plus Neo is just to give you the AI in a safe way, right? We actually have done plenty of researches. It's not just us, everyone does a lot of researches, right? Only 39% of the people trust AI, which is unfortunate, right? But that's a reality. So we wanted to bring the peace of mind when it comes to AI. So that's one aspect. But the other aspect, like I said, it's, when people consume AI, it's actually a lot of friction, a lot of cognitive efforts. For instance, right, everyone have been, most people have been using ChatGPT. But guess what? People are fundamentally not very good at asking questions. Human beings are not very good at asking questions. Let's admit it, right? That's for thousands or more than thousands of years. So when it comes to ChatGPT, sure, it's good, it's great, but, if you have to have a lot of the cognitive efforts, we're not really consuming this technology to maximize the value out of it, right? So the intention of the Neo or the next generation browser is so that you get a value of ChatGPT without, proactively asking a lot of questions by human, but proactively by the Superman, the personal assistant on the side.
Right.
So when you marry that and the safety, I think it's going to be incredible for consumers out there, for people out there, for the next decade.
Right. Now, you said you've been at the company now for just about a year, a little over
Yes.
a year. Talk to us about results that you've seen that gave you chills, or you jumped up and down and did your victory dance, or something that is like, wow, this is why I'm here, and this is why this company is so amazing. Something that gave you chills.
Sure. This company has 500 million users. That's like amazing, right? We are talking about 500 million users. When we do a product, right? I've been a product person for the last, almost 3 decades, right? I always feel like I'm one of the best technologists, the best, person to do a product. But in a very humble sort of the way, I feel like, wow, just being able to develop the best product, it's not enough. You have to distribute it. You have to get things out. You have to get people aware of it, right? So the fact that we have assembled an amazing group of people, a small group of people to do this amazing product, that's great, but that's not enough. We kind of, live in the big company with 500 million users. Now, that being said, let's be honest. Innovation in the big company is never easy, right? On the paper, it's sort of a no-brainer. In reality, 99% of the time, it's actually doesn't work the way we kind of wanted it, right? That's always the case. So here's the kind of my boss, the CEO of the company, and I actually literally discussed intensively. That's a year ago. I'm going to celebrate my 1-year anniversary soon in this company. We discussed intensively. How do we innovate in the big company, right? Because it's not easy. It's a path most of the people failed or have not taken. So there is tremendous innovation just for doing a brand new AI product in a large company. I mean, you think about it, right? Google invented some of the great AI technologies like transformer model, but boom, OpenAI started a ChatGPT, not Google, right? Why is that? Google probably has 10x, 100x more AI people than OpenAI at the time. Why is that? This is an indication that it's hard to do innovation in a big company. I wouldn't say we decode everything, but I think, if there's one thing I'm super proud, it's just not just, beyond the product side, is we kind of decoded, let me just say, at least half or at least a good portion of how to innovate in a big company. That's something I'm pretty proud of.
Yes.
Hopefully we will share more of that story with outsiders.
Yes. No, that is amazing. That absolutely is amazing. Now, you're working with some powerful tools, and, there's this big push or thought around ethics. So how do you make sure that you don't cross any ethical lines and that you protect the human in the loop of your innovation?
This is a very good question. I always work in the enterprise product, right? Enterprise product, I wouldn't say there's a less worry. It's sort of a privacy or not is a relatively less concern, because usually you work on a product always working within the enterprise, right? You don't worry about what data collect, what data not to collect, because all the data belong to the company anyways, right? So that's sort of the world I came from, right? In the new world I have been living in the last 1 year, it's a very interesting, right? 500 million users, pretty much every one of them is just consumer out there, users out there. What data do we collect? What's our responsibility? Do we want to do, how to use the data is something that we have to think over and over. And I have to say that some of our engineers came from our Norton, Avast, LifeLock side of the product divisions, right? They came to my team, in the last 1 year. I learned a lot, right? Because whenever I kind of wanted to collect some data, the immediate question is, why do we want to collect data? Do we have an alternative? That's not my instinct from day one. However, this is they are kind of influencing me. Now, that being said, I'm also influencing them as well. hey, there's a lot of value in data. If we use the data safely, right, intelligently, we are providing the value. So you see that there are two groups of people. They have different points of view, different background, all valid background, all valid approaches. Sort of we're thinking about, hey, how do we do a new product in the AI era, right? Without data, don't do AI, right? Because, how interesting is that? But you can't, abuse the data for sure, but it's more than that, right? If you are not careful, that the data can be leaked, it can be misused, right? So what are the all the hoops around it? So we have to think a lot more. So I kind of learned a lot. I think I also influenced my team a lot in terms of, hey, don't just let the data sit there, right? Let it be useful to the user or to the owner of the data.
That's great. That is absolutely great. And ethics is so very important. And the fact that you're thinking about that at the forefront of all of your initiatives and breakthroughs is absolutely amazing. So let's talk about the big future. Let's say 5 years from now, 2030. What does a future powered by all of your tech feel like to the normal person? I mean, you talked about like Superman and the browser. Is there some, and you definitely are a futuristic thinker, obviously, as innovation officer. So what is something that you see in the future that would surprise us or amaze us in terms of what we can expect from the company?
Not much, nothing. Because 5 years from now, we reach the AGI, we just sit there, money will fly the sky, food will fly everywhere. We just have everything. No, just kidding. Look, I think 5 years is a very long time in the AI era.
Yes, that's true.
I would say, it's almost like you're asking me this question 50 years ago. 50 years from now, what would the world look like, right?
Yeah.
So we all sort of know it's a huge difference. I want to say 5 years from now, that will be approximately the difference, in this world. So it's kind of in some ways scary, but in some ways super exciting, right? So your specific question though is what the world would look like?
How will the world, or how does the future powered by all of your innovation and your tech feel like to the everyday person? What would that feel like to me? A good example was the one that you mentioned in terms of a browser that thinks for me. Are there other futuristic things that might be, unimaginable now that you're thinking of in terms of the future of the company?
Yeah. I'm not sure 5 years from now, but approximately 5 to 10 years, that horizon, I have more confidence to say. I think pretty much everything will be disrupted in that 5 to 10 year horizon. 3 big areas that we sort of know that's so touching to our lives. Transportation, health, and education, right? No matter what, you deal with these 3 things. I would say self-driving or robo-taxi will be a lot more on the road than today, right? Today in San Francisco, in various parts of the world, you already see that. But in 5 to 10 years, it's going to be, I wouldn't say ubiquitous, but it's going to be a lot more common. So that's healthcare. I wouldn't say we will cure everything we know today, but we will on the path of understanding majority or a lot of the disease we, have today. Right. So that's the healthcare. There is a reason that Nobel Prize, the chemistry, was awarded to an AI scientist or a few AI scientists last year, right? So that's that. Education is a tough one. So far, we haven't seen big sort of impact of AI in the education. I wouldn't say none. But however, if you go to high school, right, you go to elementary school, you go to college, you ask the teachers, you ask the students, what are you doing fundamentally differently today versus, before? I would say so far AI has not impacted it that much. Everywhere, most people are using ChatGPT, but guess what? Textbook is the same. Exam is almost the same, right? I think 5 to 10 years from now, we are going to start seeing or see the sign of big shift. Education is tougher for another reason, let me tell you. Because this is one area that the technology, not just AI technology, the technology or high technology in the recent years have not touched this area as much. I mean, think about it, right? We invented the internet in the last 50 years. But guess what? Internet fundamentally changed the way we teach in the elementary school, in the high school. It augmented, but not fundamentally changed it, right? And honestly, the education system, in US and honestly in the worldwide has not changed even for 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my observation. I believe AI is going to change it in a big time, but we are going to start seeing that in 5 to 10 years.
Got it. Okay, well, Howie, you've now changed. I'm going to have to change my question and not ask by 2030, but just ask the future because, like you said, everything is so ever-changing. So I'm going to edit my question, and thank you for that. So, you have over 500 million customers, but that's not everybody. There's still a huge customer base that you could still target. So for those who might say, oh, I don't care about protection, I don't care about, whether or not someone is stealing my identity or something like that, what make them a believer? What's the one thing that our listeners can try, build, or explore this week with one of your products to get a taste of your AI magic and the power behind it?
Well, my initial answer would be everything, right? You want to protect your identity, you want to protect your mobile, you want to protect everything. But since we just launched the Norton Neo yesterday, right?
Okay.
24 hours ago, I'm going to stick to that.
Yes.
I believe that, like you said, 500 million users are our users, are our customers. But guess what? We are kind of in this browser world, right? In the browser market, Chrome alone, right? Google Chrome alone has, almost 4 billion users. And that is the market we want to get into, right? So here's one thing I'm very confident. I always tell my team, each technology, each product has its own life. By the way, speaking of that, Norton is probably one of the rare beasts that has a life spanning across multiple decades and then still stay strong, right? Still stay as a dominant player. That's actually, I don't know how many. It's definitely single digit, maybe, a handful or maybe less than a handful technology can claim that.
Right.
Not even, Google and Facebook, they spend, maybe 2 decades or 3 decades, but not like more than that, right?
Right.
So anyway, coming back to Norton Neo, right? We look at the Norton Neo as the entry door to the digital world for consumer, right? You do anything, you want to know what's going on with the outside world, you want to read the email, you want to plan your things. It's your entry door to your digital world. So I want to say this is something that everyone should start, experiencing the new way of interacting with the digital world today, and I'm very confident that Norton Neo is creating a new product category. That new product category is disrupting the Google Chrome of the world. Google Chrome replaced, Microsoft Internet Explorer about 10, 15 years ago. And then Internet Explorer replaced the Netscape, right? Today we carry the torch of the Netscape and then sort of have the next generation of the browser. So we are very excited. I think each of your audience should be excited. That's the new world that we are in, right? A new entry door to your digital world.
Yes, I'm going to definitely try it because the thought of a browser knowing and predicting what I want is amazing. And I have thought
we actually have very limited, sort of the initially activated, some small number of users. But because you are so excited, you get a priority list.
Yay! Thank you. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, we only charge $500 for the activation. No, just kidding. Okay. I was telling people, my team members are joking with me, hey, you need activation code. What if people don't have it? Are people going to sell it on the community, eBay or not? I said, let's not worry about that. Let the, real interested user try it out, give us feedback, evolve this product. I'm a product builder. I would love to work with you and then your audience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Y'all heard it here first, and we'll get to how you can get in contact to be a part of that. As soon as we
and the number 16 on the Apple Podcast list today and the rising, right? So
yes.
when your users started using Norton Neo and then they feel the value, you are going to rise from 16 to number 1.
Woo! Yes, I feel it, Howie. Absolutely. And what he's talking about, everybody, is that last week we hit number 16 in the text section on Apple Podcasts. And that's huge because there are a lot of podcasts that don't hit the charts, and we hit the charts. And so we have to say thank you to all of our listeners as well as to our guests, our exciting guests like you, Howie. So thank you so very much. So I have a question that I call, and our listeners are very familiar with this, called From One Genius to Another. So our last guest has a question for you, Howie, and I have to read it because it is rather long but interesting. And the question for you is, as AI agents get better at making decisions across unstructured real-world workflows, what role do you think human judgment will play in business operations 5 years from now, and how do we train people to lead in that world?
Yeah, that's a very good question, but that's a tricky one. The reason it's a tricky one is for the following reason. We all have a workflow, right? Especially for, knowledge worker, right? We all, we get up in the morning, check email, using certain software as service systems, whether we are in the financial department, the marketing department, we all have certain workflow, right? Microsoft Office or Google Workplace, you name it. That's our workflow.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask me what we are going to do with AI providing so much value,
mm-hmm.
I would say, let's assume for a second the workflow is going to be very different to begin with. We cannot use the current workflow and say, hey, this portion, right, using human judgment, and then the rest will be automated. I think that's kind of a pigeonhole us into, last generation workflow, and I say, hey, what are we going to do? What will human beings are going to do? To me, that's, almost the wrong way to frame what we should be thinking. The right way we should be thinking is almost everything we know today, in terms of the process, like check email, reply email, all that sort of thing. A lot of things will be automated, right? But that doesn't mean, we don't have work, we don't have job to do. It means that we have to disentangle a lot of the things. Let's say, we have 50 things we do today. We need to break down those tasks into 300 or maybe even 500 different smaller subtasks. And among those 500 subtasks, I would say 450 of them is going to be automated. And the 50 of them, humans are still going to work on it. Keep in mind that 50 things is no longer the same, 50 things we know today, right? So what I'm trying to say is, look, Microsoft CEO Satya, said something a few months ago, which really resonated with me. Everyone is worried about, I want to say everyone, a lot of people worried about, hey, what am I going to do? Am I going to lose my job? Especially as a knowledge, worker. And then he said something that's very interesting. He said, don't be confused between knowledge worker and the knowledge work. A lot of the knowledge work is going to be automated.
Right.
But it doesn't mean knowledge workers are going to be automated, right? So what you are going to see is we are going to totally, reassemble, break down our day-to-day thing, right? Our 50 things we are doing today is going to be broken down, reassembled, reimagined, and then we land up another 50 things. That 50 things is different from the 50 things we are doing today. And then we are still going to be busy. We are still going to, arguably, potentially, we are going to be less busy only because, there is more automation so that human beings have more free time. That's possible, right? Think about it, right? 100 years ago, there's no such notion that, you can take 2 days off because if you're a farmer, which 90% 100 plus years ago, 90% of people were farmers. You can't say, I don't care about this, my farm, on
Right.
Saturday and Sunday, right? It doesn't work that way. So you have to, almost think about it every day. But because of automation, because of this and that, I would say, I don't know, 90% or, some good percentage of people have 2 days off.
Mm-hmm.
I do imagine because of AI, we may have 3 days off. That I can see that.
Right.
But that doesn't mean knowledge workers will not have anything to do. Another example is, before, right, 100 plus years ago, it's kind of horse ride, people serving the horse ride, they all lost job when cars were invented, right? But guess what? Think about the car ecosystem, automobile ecosystem, right? There are far more jobs today in that ecosystem than people, serving the horse rides, back 100 plus years ago.
Right.
But keep in mind that those people, or at that time, did we imagine what the ecosystem would look like with the automobile ecosystem? We didn't, right? So when we sort of march into this robo-taxi, self-driving, world, I want to say we don't even know. We have to reimagine, and then that reimagination is really tough, right? And so going back to your question, I don't think it's about, hey, here's what we are doing today. What portion is left for human beings? I think that's the wrong framing to think about. The right framing is we reimagine the future world is, right? And then in that new world, most of us, at least not me, can totally imagine it yet. How do we think about where the human, what's the job for human?
Mm-hmm. I love that. I absolutely love that. And that is a great perspective. It was a difficult question, but you simplified it and gave a different perspective. So I really appreciate that.
Once you have Norton Neo, this is easy.
It's easy. There we go. Y'all heard it here. Norton Neo.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, it's going to spike up when people listen, for sure. That is amazing, Howie. You're absolutely right. So now we're going to move into our bonus rapid fire. I am going to shoot off 4 questions and you're going to quickly respond to them. The first one is most overrated tech trend.
AI.
Okay. I can't ask you for an explanation, but okay. Most underhyped AI breakthrough.
AI.
Okay. One book everyone should read.
I would recommend Elon Musk's book, The Autography. The reason is not because I love him, I do not love him. It's just for us to decode what happens, why Elon Musk is able to do certain things. So I think I recommend that.
Okay, perfect. What is the boldest AI prediction you believe?
I believe AI scientists will win all of the remaining Nobel Prize categories that AI scientists have not won yet. Keep in mind, last year, AI scientists won 2 categories, physics and chemistry.
Got it. Now, you're going to be one of them? Is that a goal?
We will see. If I use Norton Neo enough, maybe I have a chance.
Amazing. That's amazing. Well, Howie, I so appreciate your time today. I definitely learned a lot. It was so fun, very much fun, and I enjoy that. That's one reason why I love being a host, because I get to meet interesting people. Kudos to all the things that you're doing. And I'm particularly honored because Norton Neo released yesterday. And so we're one of the few platforms where it was announced. And I am, when I started this podcast, I just wanted to talk about late breaking AI developments. And I didn't think that I would be a part of history with you in Gen Digital. So I'm so appreciative. And I am very, very thankful. So how can people get to your products, get in contact with you? Where should they follow? Tell us all the different channels.
Look, Norton Neo, when you search it, you will find it, or go to neotoday.ai directly. Now, this is a little bit friction, a little bit tough, but once you have Norton Neo, then you can find those information much easier.
Yes.
You don't even need to look around. It will just, jump to the right place, right time, potentially, right? Be ahead of you.
Yes.
So that's kind of try out neotoday.ai. neotoday.ai, neotoday.ai.
Absolutely. You heard it here, everyone. Support Norton Neo, not just for the company, but for yourself. I have so many of their products and I'm very happy. So thank you again, Howie, and best wishes on all the latest and new developments that are coming out with the company.
And by the way, let me say one last thing.
Yes.
I saw you lead with AI.
Yes.
When you ask me, hey, most underrated technology, most overhyped technology, I said AI. I literally believe that. It's both overhyped and underhyped at the same time. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
We can spend another episode one day to discuss why I think that way, but I truly, truly believe that.
Yes. It was a great answer. And you're the only one that has answered it that way. And it made me think. And I'm like, you know what? He's right. So that's good. Thank you so much, Howie.
Have a nice one.
All right.
Have a nice long weekend.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Lead with AI. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the cutting-edge innovations shaping AI across the public and private sectors. Until then, keep leading with AI.